Welcome to Season 3 of the Armchair Athletes on CMRU.ca.
We're here to talk the four major American sports leagues. Your favorite sports show on CMRU.ca, hosted by Terrell, Taylor, Clayton, and Will.
Okay, so joining us now is a baseball player who was drafted in the MLB draft in 2008 by the Chicago Cubs, made his MLB debut in 2015 for the San Diego Padres, and just this season, for the first time in his baseball career, was named to an MLB opening day roster for the Minnesota Twins. Welcome on to the Armchair Athletes, relief pitcher, Jay Jackson. Jay, how are you doing today?
Good, appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate having you on the show. And Terrell, I think I'll give the mic over to you for the first question.
Absolutely. So obviously, we're both Canadians, so both big Jays fans, and we enjoyed watching you play there last season. You were incredible out of the bullpen last year, and I think probably the most memorable moment for me, and I'm sure you remember it too, those two outings against the Dodgers. Where you came in, you threw 2 innings the one game, you came in again, went 1 2/3, 3 Ks. When you came into that first game, was it the plan to throw 2 innings because they kind of gone through a bunch of bullpen arms before you? So yeah, were you going to come in and throw 2 innings to set up Romano, or did that just kind of end up happening?
I just kind of whatever they use me as normally is just kind of whatever happens. If I'm rolling, they can stretch me out for 2 innings and I can go out there and give 2 quality innings. That's the best thing I can do is to help the team in any way possible. Mm-hmm. So last year was kind of just it was a good spot, and they put me in a lot of good situations where the 2 innings I would pitch, I would face really good matchups for myself, so it wouldn't be too bad of a thing to go out there and give 2 innings all the time. And they kept me in a good situation, kept me fresh a lot, and so I was always able to give the team my best. So that was always the best part about last year. And, they just kind of used me all over the place last year. Mm-hmm. So it was nice to, kind of know that I was needed. And they kind of gave us, a rundown kind of before the game, when we would be used. So it was very well thought out, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So obviously that's what I remember you best for. But what would you say that your most memorable moment in the MLB has been up to this point?
In the MLB, I'd say, as bad as it sounds, probably my draft, not my draft day, but my debut. Just because of how nervous I was, I don't think I've ever been that nervous before a game. And to get into a game immediately, I normally thought most guys, you get up, you get called up, you get a day to kind of sit in there and kind of feel it and get it in. My first game, I got in late in the game, and we were only up 4 or 5. So that was my first experience, and I was just oh God, it just kind of all hit me. But it was nice. That was probably the most memorable experience I've had in MLB for sure.
Mm-hmm. So is there a batter, and obviously you played in a bunch of different leagues, college, Japan, the different minor league levels, and then into the MLB. Is there any specific batter you faced that's given you more trouble than anyone else, or a specific at-bat you can think of where you just couldn't get a guy out?
I'd say there's a guy in Japan that was probably my most difficult at bat. It's just because he was known for fouling pitches off and not getting on base. He would always walk. He would never hit. He would just foul pitches off until you were finally walking. And literally, I think I threw 10 or 11 or 12 pitches against this guy, and I was throwing really good pitches, and he was fouling every single one of them off. So finally, I was just all right, I'm just gonna throw it right down the middle to see if he at least hits the ball in play or whatever. And I threw 2 pitches right down the middle, I felt and he fouled them both off still. And I was just he's literally just trying to get a walk. He's not trying to put a ball in play. So it was just crazy because I ended up walking him. So it was terrible, but it happens. But that was probably the toughest at bat I've had. But most guys, it's just mano a mano. You go your strength versus their strength, or their weakness against your strength, or something like that. And it's normally it's cut and dry for the most part for most guys. But you have little guys here or there that are slap guys that try to work counts. Trey Turner, when he's feeling really good, sees the ball really well. The Yankees lineup, for the most part, I feel they do a lot of research on guys motions and glove holds and things like that to figure out what you're doing to tip. So you have to make quality pitches, and normally if they have your tell, they're on those pitches. So they're either hitting them or fouling them off, and those become long at bats at times if they kind of know it's coming.
Mm. So when you were heading into that matchup with that guy, were you aware that was kind of his deal before you got up there, or was it like you kept throwing him pitches and being like, man, I cannot get this guy out?
I already knew because it was in the scouting report, but then once you get in there and get in the game and actually start facing them, it's just like, okay, like you try to be a pitcher and try to figure out like, okay, how do I get him out? Like try to figure out the strategy behind it, and literally like everything I was doing like wasn't working. So I was just like, all right, like eventually, all right, I see exactly what he's doing. Like he's just literally trying to get on base by a walk, and he just fouled enough off where I was just like, all right, I couldn't throw enough strikes.
So what would you say the biggest difference is going from, like I said, playing multiple different levels, the various levels in the minor league to the Japanese leagues and to the major leagues? What are like the biggest differences between them?
It's not the talent level, it's the consistency, I would say. The consistency to be at a high level all the time compared to, see guys in the minors. They have the same velocity and everything else, but it's just that little thing that like, okay, this guy in the major leagues throws this pitch 70% of the time for strikes, whereas in the minors, this guy's throwing it for like 40. Like, it's just the consistency of being able to execute because it's to be at a high level all the time. And that's just your work ethic and your discipline and, your focus on things that you like do every day. That's why we're out here. I mean, right now, I'm watching guys we're like 5 hours before the game. Guys are out here putting in work right now, working on their craft, taking ground balls. Some guys are out here stretching, throwing against things, getting ready for a game. And it's 5 hours away, Those are things that are going to carry over. And as you keep doing it and you build that routine, is what keeps you up here or keeps you having a job. It keeps you in the big leagues as long as you can because, you perfect what you're doing. Or at least you don't perfect it, you come as close as you can to perfecting it. We're not even close to being perfect.
Yeah. So obviously in the Twins organization, they have some of the most absurd arms in all of baseball. They have Joan Duran in there as well as Jax Griffin. I've always kind of wondered, I have never seen pitches like that in my life. What's it like seeing guys like that in action? Joan Duran with his 100-mile-an-hour fastball and Griffin with his like high 80s breaking balls.
They're amazing back there. You're always confident. That's what you expect out of the back end of your bullpen. You guys that are in your high-level situations to have stuff like that so they can go in and compete. And if they ever get in trouble, they can kind of almost overpower people. When you're in the back end of the bullpen, that's kind of what you're known to do is to be able to get out of situations whenever you can because your stuff is so good, And then you also add in Brock Stewart to that mix too. And now you have Cole Sands, the way he's been throwing lately, with him throwing mid to high 90s with a splitter, a devastating splitter, and a crazy curveball and cutter mix right now. And then Brock's coming back from injury right now, and he's sitting there throwing high 90s to 100 as well with 4 pitches as well. So it's crazy to think of the bullpen that they have right now, but being in that bullpen and seeing the mix they have and seeing the guys they have, you just always feel that you're in a game. Like, as like a starter can give up a lot of runs, but that our bullpens should be able to hold them to whatever damage is done to give our offense a chance to come back. And I feel like the offense feels that way too. And you see with the comeback wins that they always have. The games are close. Like the Twins are always going to be in striking distance because of the bullpen, because you have a chance to keep the game close at all times.
Yeah. So obviously right now down in AAA with the St. Paul Saints, is there anyone in that farm system that's impressed you kind of more than anyone else? And is there anyone that you think is flying under the radar in terms of their ranking amongst other prospects?
Right now I feel like we have a bunch of guys that are kind of free agents. It's a mixed bag of guys here right now. There's a bunch of prospects, but all the prospects that we had here are in the big leagues right now. You see Bruce Lee, you see Austin Martin, you see Jorge Alcala, you see Cole Sands, you see those guys that are up there. Right now, right here we have Will Holland. Will Holland just got hurt. He was playing well before he got hurt and left out of here. You have Chris Williams. You have a bunch of the pitchers, Lou Varden, that I'm down here with, Scotty Bell with right here. just a bunch of guys that are doing the work. Hobie Harris, like even though the numbers aren't great in AAA, just because it's AAA, like you take your numbers with kind of a grain of salt, and then you have good years, you bad years, but you just kind of put the work in, and the stuff will translate as long as you're trying to stay as consistent as possible. But there's a bunch of guys down here. I mean, we're playing really good baseball right now, and just injuries are just taking ravage of everything. So all the guys that I would say, honestly, are in the big leagues right now. So it's no fault of their own, but we're still competing, still playing good baseball down here, and the guys are playing well. So like I said, there'll be a bunch of guys that still come up from these guys in the next couple of years anyway. But I feel like most of the prospects from this level already transitioned up, and you'll see most of the guys from AA come back down and make their transitions to AAA in the big leagues in the next coming years.
So another thing, we kind of talked about some of the bullpen guys for the Twins, and that crazy velo that they have. How have expectations of pitchers changed since you joined the league? And do you think that the emphasis on spin rates and increased velocity could potentially be part of what's leading to all these injuries for pitchers?
I think it's possible that it could be. I mean, I feel like we need to do more info on it. And, I feel like it's become more entertainment based than baseball based as it was before. There's no disrespect to the league for doing that, because they're trying to appeal to more people to keep the viewership up and to bring more fans in, to keep the owners happy and keep the ball players playing, and giving us the best facilities and things that we can because of the money that is bringing in. But at the end of the day, I think it's just all about we still have to get outs. I mean, for me, I knew it was just whatever type of pitch you were, it's just about getting outs, and then it was about winning championships. And spin rate and all these things is bringing a different aspect of the game in, because before it's just like, oh, how's this guy throwing this way and getting guys out? This guy's only throwing 90 miles per hour. What's his secret? Well, and then now you see that, okay. But now I feel like it's getting too much to be like guys are starting to pay attention to the spin rates and the pitches and the sequences, that they're not being as reactive as they once were. And they're tricking themselves out and not just playing baseball anymore. They're trying to almost predict the future instead of being in the present and, playing baseball, honestly.
Yeah, because I think that's part of it is the emphasis, especially when you're younger. Like, no scout's going to come see the kid that's, the coach says, oh, he throws, high 80s, but man, can he get guys out? They're going to come there for the kid that's sitting, mid 90s, high 90s. They're chasing those kind of gaudy numbers just to get people to look at them more.
100%. And that's what it is at that level. But I feel like for me, the guys that I've always trained and the kids that I've taught coming up, it's all right, get the basics first, throw strikes first. And then after that, we can ramp up to see if you can step on the gas. Because if you can get the basics and throw in the zone, and then you can put gas behind it, then you're in a better position than the guys that just learn how to just throw the ball hard as they can and then try to zero it in. That's a lot tougher than then doing it the other way for me. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I feel like the numbers that we have of guys throwing 95 plus now and the injuries are kind of correlating, but at the same time, we have advances in healthcare that are taking care of those guys too, that are trying to keep them out there as long as possible and actually help them throw harder and harder and harder too. So it's kind of crazy to see.
Yeah.
Exciting news! The Armchair Athletes are pumped to announce our partnership with BetStamp and Sign Up Experts, opening up an incredible opportunity for you to join some of our favorite sportsbooks to get the best odds and new user offers. If you're ready to take your sports betting to the next level and maybe cash in on a parlay or a sleeper pick that you think is a moneymaker, we highly recommend signing up for your next sportsbook through our Sign Up Expert link. Head over to our dedicated page at signupexpert.com/armchairathletes to explore a selection of sportsbooks tailored to your region, each with unique offerings. Click the link in this episode's description to sign up now.
So I did have a question for you, and I had mentioned at the end of the intro that you made an MLB opening day roster for the first time in your career. How was that experience for you? Like, how cool of a feeling was that for you? And who gave you the news that you had made the opening day roster?
I was just kind of floating around the locker room, and I kind of figured that I should or could have made it at the time, and then finally just kind of, it was Rocco had told me finally at the end of the day that I made the team, but it was an amazing feeling. It was one of the goals that I've always set out for myself before my career was over, to be on the MLB opening day roster. Since I had never done it, I've been called up a few times, but just never managed to make it out of the gate. So making it was one of those things that I was able to do and accomplish and check off the dream bucket list and everything like that. So it was definitely there. And then after that, it was okay, back to work. But come to find out, I've kind of been playing with a little injury the whole year and just trying to get that kind of fixed now. And so I can get out there and be as healthy as possible and get back to being me.
I had another question as well. Like, when you signed with the Twins earlier this year, what made you want to sign with Minnesota, and what was that process like? Like, were there a number of teams interested in signing you before the season?
That's actually the crazy part. Like, there wasn't a lot of teams. There wasn't a lot of offers that were being out there that were thrown to me that were going to be enticing enough for me to honestly think that I wasn't going to be done playing baseball. So honestly, I was making the transition to do other things, and then the Twins came out of nowhere with a great offer, and I jumped on it and got back to work. And I had been practicing and training the whole offseason anyway in hopes of getting a job, but it started getting late in the season and late in the off season that like I was just like, okay, like if something happens, something happens. If not, then start to plan the whole next phase of what's gonna be the case. And I just got blessed and lucky that Minnesota took a chance on me.
Nice. And then the other question that I'd asked was, how have you found that the game's evolved since you were drafted into the MLB in 2008? And do you think that, like, I know there's been a number of changes recently with the pitch clock and whatnot. Are you a fan of like some of those changes, or do you think maybe the game's taken a wrong turn?
I mean, the game's just advanced in a bunch of ways, right? You see the pitch clock, bigger bases, making the game try to be more exciting and have more action. But I think that it's getting to the point of teetering on too much. You see the robotic strike zones now, the ABS coming in, and things of that nature. And you see the analytics that are coming in with having so much technology in the dugout and things of that nature. So, I mean, I feel like we need to take a step back possibly and make it a little bit more simple and just enjoy the game of baseball again. And I think that this pitch clock possibly has kind of hurt, I wouldn't say the game, but I think it's hurt some of the guys with the body, like, not being able to recover as fast to a certain degree. I think we need to do some more studies on it and try to figure out, like, why there's been so many injuries. Maybe it's the velocity, but maybe it's the pitch clock and the velocity. Maybe it's a lot of these things. But I'm all for making baseball more accessible and more exciting and more entertaining for people and for fans, so more people can enjoy it, so more people can play, so it can bring together more cultures, so it's not just dominated by, as many people as it is. It's more culturally relevant to everyone, where we have more European guys coming over to play, and we have more African American kids coming to play, we have more South Africans coming to play, we have more kids all over the place playing baseball and integrating. So, I mean, anything to bring that out, but at the same point, I mean, it can be a bit much. I feel like it's getting to the point where we're catering to the entertainment side more than the baseball side at a certain
point. Carol, I know you had a question because we had listened to your latest podcast and you discussed robo umpires. So, Terrell, I know you had a question about that.
Yeah, so it was kind of refreshing to hear it, because I think it's probably similar for a lot of the MLB players that they're all not a fan of it. But like outside of that, I feel like especially online, people are fans of it because umps get, just crucified because of performances, justifiably so in some cases. But I personally, I don't think that robo umps are the solution. And for me, it's a matter of it takes away a whole element of the game on framing pitches for catchers. There's tons of different reasons. Like you said, it's as simple as, there have been so many changes already. Is this one that we really need to do? it could be, some catchers would lose their jobs because of this. Like there are guys that are in there because they're so good at framing. That's like, that is their
Umpires are
thing.
going to lose their jobs.
Some umpires too. Yeah. So, and you said you'd rather have incentives for umpires to perform well as opposed to robo umpires coming in to replace them completely. Is there any other rationale behind that, or is the main thing just you just want better performances out of these umps?
Just better performance, but I mean, just makes the quality of the game better too, right? And it's going to be more entertaining for people too, right? Like, because then they get to watch the umpires to see who's going where too. It's almost like, you take soccer for instance. All the fans of certain teams are like, okay, I hope he doesn't get relegated. Or I hope they don't get relegated. If you love an umpires, baseball players, there's certain umps that we're fans of too, and players that we're fans of too, and like, dude, you gotta clean this up, dude. You might be out of here, man. We could start doing that to umpires, so we could start talking a little trash too. So it'd be kind of fun just to see both sides, because then, again, I don't feel like they would feel as entitled to do some of the things and act to certain ways like they do towards us as they always do, because they know that their job's safe, their security's safe. They don't have to explain anything to anybody anytime. They can make as many mistakes as they want, and they don't really have to give an explanation for it because their union and their bylaws, they don't have to. So I feel like if that was the case where it's like, hey, you know what, dude, you might be in AAA the rest of the year. If you don't clean this up, dudes are gonna start having a little bit better performance, and I feel like they're not gonna be so harsh on us as they normally are either.
Yeah, because I think another thing you mentioned, the job security, and I think it's getting better as the umpires are getting younger as they come up. And the guy that I always pointed to as proof of that was Pat Hoberg, because he had that near perfect game in the World Series. And then obviously since then he's gotten into some trouble for the gambling policies. But as the umpires are getting younger, and I think as guys come up, they understand that they don't have that same level of security as some of the older umpires, and that is causing them to be more accurate and just overall have a better strike zone. So I completely agree. I think that the way that you framed it makes a lot of sense. Have incentives, whether it be bonuses or you get sent up or down regarding your performance. I prefer that much more over the robot umpires.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, it's a competitive thing too, right? If there's a bonus at the end of it, where the top three in the major leagues, you get an incentive for being in the top three for percentage calls. You're going to be like, hey, I need to be in the top three, right? Let me go ahead and get an extra couple $100,000 for you and the family. It would just make sense.
Yeah.
The other question that I wanted to ask here, so when you're going between AAA and the MLB, or if you're going from one team to another, how do you stay focused and just remain upbeat during those times?
You just try to focus on where you're at. For me, I just enjoy baseball. I love the game. So no matter where I'm at, if I'm playing baseball, then it's a great day. For me, basically, every day I wake up, it's a great day, regardless of whatever else happens. So if I wake up, then everything else is a win. It's the cherry on top, and then I can move, I can be out here, and then for me, playing baseball is probably the greatest job I could ever have, right? So I'm not going to complain about playing baseball as long as I'm out here. I'm going to just focus on what I can do, where I can do it at, and then let the rest take care of itself. That's why I have agents, and that's why I have managers, and that's why I have other people in those fields where I can just try to focus on doing what I try to be the best at and what I enjoy doing, so I can take my happiness and peace away.
Yeah, that's a very good mindset to have. And as well, did you guys talk about when I was had been away there about his baseball camp over All-Star break?
We have not, no.
Okay, so while we're at that, we had to cancel it because of the weather in South Carolina. We were going to do it, had everything lined up, but we actually had a really bad heat wave. I think most of the country did at that time. And it was going to be in the upper 90s, 100 degrees out there, and I wasn't going to put kids at risk to do that. So we're actually going to do a camp in the fall during the off season. And the kids that were in the camp, we're giving them special admissions and like a little gift to like show that like, hey, like sorry that like we couldn't come, but I wasn't gonna put kids like health at risk for just a baseball game. That's like the last thing I'd ever do.
Yeah. And I was going to ask as well, like, what made you want to start a baseball camp and help out the younger generation?
Just to give back, just to have people like me, you know, be part of baseball. I mean, the next Jay Jackson could be out there and might be playing another sport, or might not have access in Greenville to know where, you know, this camp is, or have an access point to certain areas that other big schools go to, where I can say, hey, come join our camp. You know what I mean? Like, and our camp's not as strict and stringent as some of these other camps, where my camp's more, I feel like, about fun and just learning the basics and enjoying the game of baseball, rather than showing off your scouts and doing these things. And like, it's about just having fun and just being like able to just be out on the field and enjoy the sunshine and the grass.
Yeah. And then, so you run the camp out of Furman University, Greenville, South Carolina, where you played college ball, and it's also your hometown. Was that when you were growing up? Did you always want to play for Furman University? And
actually, no, I never thought about Furman. Like, Furman didn't cross my radar until like my freshman year of high school. My freshman year of high school, the coach at Furman actually started recruiting me then, not like officially recruiting me, but he had a guy on my fall ball team that was committed to go to Furman. So he would come to the games and he's like, Jay, he's like, you're going to come to Furman. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, I'm not coming to Furman. I want to get, because at the time I wanted to go to either University of Miami or Stanford or one of those schools. So those were my top two schools, and that didn't happen. I ended up going to Furman instead. So he got his wish, and, you know, the rest is history. You know, that was good to be at home, good to be in the hometown. My family got to come watch me play a lot, and so I had a big support system that was huge to get me to the level I'm at right now. And so that's just a major thing for me.
how much time do you have left? Just so that.
How much time do what?
How much time do you have left for this interview? Just so that, because we want to do a lightning round at the end. So.
We can do a lightning round. I got like probably like a 10 minutes. I got like probably 10 minutes. I just got a text to, got to call somebody in a second. So I got about 10 minutes left. So.
Okay. Terrell, I wanted to ask you a bit about your podcast as well, the Brushback podcast. Just tell the audience like what your podcast is about. And the other question that I had for you is broadcasting something that you're looking to get into after you're done playing?
I haven't thought about the broadcasting part yet. The podcast was just something that me and my co-host, like, we had been talking about doing it for probably about 2 to 3 years now. We've been talking about it. And so finally, when I thought I was making the transition to be done with baseball, I was like, okay, well, now I have time to do the podcast, and now I can get everybody together and start doing it. And it was literally a podcast to do and start to get like the guys that I played with coming up, and a lot of the African American guys, because there's not a lot of us playing, to have us like have a podcast so they can like talk about their stories and have like people that you've never heard of, guys you've never heard of, come on and tell their stories and listen to them and understand like how good some of these guys were. And then also to help, honestly, the African American like younger generation realize that there's great dudes in baseball, and there's a path in baseball too to have more of an influence, because again, the numbers of the African American players keep dwindling. But, you know, there are some, you know, there's some relief to that coming. I think MLB's helping a lot, but I want to be a part of helping that as well, and getting the word out and just showing like these guys' stories to like, help influence other people as well. It doesn't matter, honestly, to influence black, white, brown, whatever, you know, purple, green. It's just a matter of, you know, just everybody enjoying baseball and like hearing these guys' stories, because they were so good, or at least I thought they were so good, and I think their numbers would show that they were so good that like you possibly should have heard them more, I think.
That's awesome. Terrell, did you have any other questions?
I think with just the few minutes we have left here, the last thing that I'll ask is, you could make a dream defense out of just current MLB players. Who would you pick?
Out of current MLB players, I would take Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at first. Let's see. Shortstop, I would probably take Trey Turner, honestly. I love Trey at short. Trey was actually one of my shortstops I had in the minors, which is awesome. Third, I would take Matt Chapman. Let's see. Second, I would put Carlos Correa at second. How about that? And then the outfield, I would go Byron Buxton at center for sure. And then maybe Mike Trout in left, and maybe Julio Rodriguez in right, and then JT Realmuto catching.
Okay. I was gonna say I was expecting that Matt Chapman pick. I figured anyone that played with him, having him there at
Matty's
third base.
so good at third base.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable. He works on it so much. He's a tireless worker.
Yeah.
The dedication he has of being so good at third base is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I mean, if we want to get into that quick lightning round, and I think we can probably wrap it up.
Yeah, so we'll do lightning round of questions here. Just short answers. So, favorite away stadium to play in?
Oh, Pittsburgh, just because of the view. Pittsburgh Stadium at night's awesome.
Who is the funniest teammate that you've ever had?
Funniest teammate? I think it would probably have to be this year. Steve Okert was pretty funny this year. Okert just ragging on people was awesome this year. I love Okert doing that.
Favorite pump-up song?
Probably anything with Young Dolph. I'm a big Young Dolph fan. So anything with Young Dolph, that's probably just the go-to. If I turn it on Young Dolph radio for my Spotify, we're ready to go.
Favorite sport other than baseball?
Basketball. That's quick. That's my second love. I thought I was going to be a basketball player, so I just wasn't tall enough.
Favorite quote?
Favorite quote? I don't know. There's so many that I live by. I'd probably say live happy.
That's a good one.
Live happy.
Favorite jersey in the MLB other than the Twins?
I think it was the nickname jerseys that we had a few years ago for, what was it, the weekend, the All-Star.
The Players Weekend?
The Players Weekend when we had the All-Star jerseys and we had the white and black ones. Those were probably my favorite.
Those were awesome. I liked those. And then for the last one here, if you could pitch to any player in MLB history, who would it be?
Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
That's a good pick.
Barry Bonds, me versus Barry when I was like in my prime too, it'd be fun just because I know how good he is, and I would just love to like see this at bat and just like think along with him to see like where he would be at and see like what pitches he would hit, how he would foul off, how he would match up against me, and how like I would take the at-bats against him as well. So yeah, Barry Bonds.
Okay, I have to throw one more on there since you said you're a basketball guy. Are you a LeBron or a Jordan fan?
I'm both.
Okay.
But I'm both. But as far as true GOAT, as like greatest all-around player, I say LeBron, just for the simple fact of not that he has as many championships as Jordan, but the fact that like his all-around game is more magic than Jordan anyway. And so like I go LeBron just because of, assists, rebounds, defense, scoring, all of it, not just the defense and the scoring. Like I'm pretty sure Jordan probably could have got his teammates in there, but Jordan wasn't into getting his teammates in there. You know what I mean? So I respect him. Jordan was a stone cold killer, and I respect all of it. But my game growing up as a basketball guy, I love playing defense and getting my teammates involved in more. So I'm more of a LeBron guy. So
it's fair. Very, very fair.
We're both LeBron guys too.
I was going to say, yeah. You got the two LeBron fans here, and then the one Jordan fan wasn't able to make it. So it's fine by us.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show today, Jay. Thank you for making time to do this interview. We really appreciate it, and good luck the rest of the season.
I appreciate it. You guys have a great rest of your day. I appreciate having me on for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.